Lena was a smart and beautiful girl, but one morning, Lena's phone suddenly turned off, and then she disappeared. The police tried to find Lena's whereabouts, but all the clues were dead ends. Lena seemed to have disappeared from the world, just like been missing for 13 years. No one knew that she had been imprisoned inhumanely. She became the wife of a sick man. Moreover, she had 2 children. Today, the children were playing with their mother. However, when the doorbell rang, the children hurriedly stood in a line, raising their hands, waiting for their father to check. The father confirmed that the children had not violated his rules, so he took out 2 oatmeal bars as a reward for them. But the mother standing nearby was so frightened that she could not stop trembling. Seeing that, the husband told his wife not to cry in front of the children. He also reminded her of the rules in their family. Then came the punishment for the mother for violating the rules. It seemed that the 3 of them had become pets held by the man. But that night, Lena found a chance to escape. She ran frantically in the woods until she accidentally tripped and saw a car passing by. Lena quickly stood up and ran for help. Soon after, Lena appeared in the ambulance and her daughter also escaped. It seemed that she understood the current situation very well, so she calmly said her mother's name and blood type. She said that this was what her mother had told her. Suddenly, Lena's heart rate increased and she did not respond to the nurse's call. Her daughter saw this and quickly leaned into her ear and said that she was still here. This sentence was like a magic spell that woke Lena up immediately. Not long after, the ambulance arrived at the hospital. After Lena was taken to the emergency room, her daughter was left alone in the lobby. Nurse Ruth was assigned to take care of her temporarily. But as soon as the 2 met, the girl opened her hands because it was a familiar action for her. Ruth took her to the waiting room and found her a warm sweater. While the 2 were talking, Ruth learned that the girl's name was Hannah. Hannah's mother, Lena, had just had a car accident. Although the driver had run away, Hannah did not feel guilty at all, because before the ambulance arrived, the driver had always taken care of Lena, and the accident was not his fault, because Lena was normally very clumsy, and she still needed Hannah's help to complete things. These words made Ruth confused and asked Hannah again if her mother was an alcoholic. Hannah shook her head and said that her mother normally only drank water, and according to the rules, Lena had to drink 5 liters of water every day. This made Ruth realize that there might be a problem in their family, so Ruth hurriedly asked Hannah if she needed help. Hannah shook her head again and said that her family had its own rules, and those rules were very important. It was just that sometimes Lena would forget to follow them and needed Hannah to remind her. Ruth could not imagine these words coming from a little girl's mouth, but what Hannah said next made Ruth even more frightened. Lena wanted to kill her husband. Ruth hurriedly went to the police officer, Ida, in charge of this accident. Ruth told Ida what Hannah had just said. Before the psychological emergency service staff arrived, Ida could not contact Hannah, so Ida could only tell Ruth to quickly ask for Hannah's home address. Ruth went back to the waiting room to find some crayons and drawing paper and instructed Hannah to tell more about her family. And it really worked. After Hannah drew a few little people, she told Ruth that her younger brother was still at home cleaning up the blood. Hannah's tone when telling this story was extremely calm. This showed that the girl was used to having blood stains in the house. Ruth asked for Hannah's address, and she said that she was asking to pick up Hannah's younger brother. But before Ruth could finish, Hannah refused and drew 2 black windows. From Hannah's broken story, Ruth learned that their house's windows were sealed, so they couldn't see outside. The room was so sealed that they needed to rely on an oxygen circulation machine to survive. Their daily food was only milk and oatmeal. Lena didn't even have milk to drink. At this point, Ruth was also sure that Lena and her 2 children were imprisoned. Ruth tried to ask for the house's address again, but Hannah coldly said she couldn't answer. At this point, Ruth suddenly realized the complexity of this case was beyond her imagination. Fortunately, Lena had emergency surgery, but halfway through the surgery, there was a problem. Lena had a transplant rejection reaction to the blood that was transfused, and this meant that the doctor's information about Lena's blood type was wrong. After the doctor finished the surgery, she immediately told Ida about the situation. The doctor's mistake was injecting blood without checking first. Ida didn't understand why Hannah lied. At this moment, the psychologist also arrived. Ida planned to go with him to see Hannah to ask something more, but Hannah's first reaction when she met them was still to spread her hands. Ida didn't understand what Hannah meant. Hannah explained that by doing so, she could ensure that she didn't hide anything that could harm herself or others. This was Hannah's father's rule, so Ida also spread her hands to show her cooperation. Ruth, who was standing nearby, called Ida out. Ruth said that Hannah also had a younger brother at home. That house was like a prison, with no windows, ventilation pipes, blood stains, and rules. After Hannah reported her mother's blood type incorrectly, Ida began to suspect whether these were also lies on Hannah's part. And right now at their house, the younger brother was clearly cleaning up the blood. All of his movements were very skillful. In one corner, there was a man who was no longer breathing. Ida tried to talk to Hana in a friendly tone, and then Hana revealed that she had never been in contact with the outside world. A happy family would not need anyone else. Mother would stay at home to teach Hana and her younger brother to read. And right now, her younger brother was still in that house without windows. When Ida asked about what happened before the car accident, Hana suddenly turned her head and stopped talking. Ida continued to ask if her father had ever harmed them, but Hana resolutely lay face down on the table and closed her eyes. Seeing this, the police had no choice but to give up on asking. They needed time for Hana to let down her guard. At this moment, Ida received a phone call. The caller was Gerd from the Major Crime Unit. Because this accident was also related to other cases, Gerd had found this case in the system half an hour ago. When Gerd saw Lena's name and her physical description, he also assumed that she and her children were being held captive. This made him very indignant and angry. Gerd quickly called an old couple and said that he might have found their daughter, who had been missing for 13 years. She was in Aachen Hospital, but this was still not certain. Before Gerd could finish speaking, the other end of the line hung up. The couple who had waited 13 years to hear this news were overjoyed. They rushed to the hospital to confirm their daughter. Gerd also rushed here, but when old man David saw Lena in a coma, he was suddenly stunned. His wife Mary also showed a look of doubt. The woman in front of them had the same blonde hair as their daughter. Even the scars on her hands were the same as their daughter. But David and Mary still immediately knew that this was not their daughter. All of Lena's hopes were dashed in an instant. David suddenly lost control of his emotions. Fortunately, Gerd arrived in time to calm him down. The strange thing was that Hana's face looked exactly like Lena's when she was young. David even had a photo of Lena when she was young to prove this. This situation made everyone confused. It was obvious that Hana was David and his wife's granddaughter, so the woman in the coma could be their daughter. At present, only a DNA test could clarify the truth, but taking Hana's DNA sample required permission from the Child Protection Department, and the comparison results would take 8 hours. When Gerd heard this, he became extremely worried. For the past 13 years, this missing person case had been tormenting him mentally. Gerd couldn't wait for the results, so he secretly entered the hospital room to ask about the comatose Lena. He asked who she was, and Lena actually responded. Her husband's voice kept echoing in her head. He urged her to answer the question quickly. Lena woke up with a start. She tried to pull off the oxygen mask. Her husband's voice kept warning her in her head that if she dared to scream, he would kill her. If she didn't follow the rules, he would kill her too. After she calmed down, she raised her head and said her name was Lena. After she finished speaking, she fainted again. This answer made Gerd a little discouraged because he didn't believe it. He could only rush to find a psychiatrist. He hoped to get Hana's DNA quickly, but he learned another surprising news. Hana said that she had met her grandfather David. When the doctor came to visit Hana this morning, she took the initiative to ask if her grandfather was still there. She thought that the man last night was Lena's father. Hana then said that she had traveled with her mother and grandfather. They met once then, and this was a secret between Hana and her mother. The little girl finished speaking and closed her eyes. She recalled the warm memories with her grandfather in the big garden. The psychologist said that sometimes people will distort part of reality due to psychological trauma to make it fit their experiences and emotions. So the psychologist could not determine whether what Hana said was true or an illusion. This also meant that the little girl might have really met her grandfather. Gerd found David and said that Hana admitted that David was her grandfather. Then Gerd asked if David had ever met Hana before. David also understood what Gerd meant. Gerd was suspecting that David had kidnapped his daughter himself, and this made him extremely angry. David pushed Gerd away and slammed the door and left. After Gerd calmed down, he also suspected that he had gone crazy. Not long after, Gerd received permission from the Child Protection Department, and the doctor was allowed to take a blood sample from Hana. Ruth gave Hana a pair of sunglasses. Because Hana had lived in a windowless room for many years, her eyes were a little afraid of light, but Hana was adapting very well to everything outside. Soon after, Ruth told Hana that she would leave soon. She would go to a specialized psychological counseling hospital to live. Hana did not object to this. She only asked to see her mother before leaving. When Hana went to her mother's bedside, while Ruth was not paying attention, Hana quietly stuffed something into Lena's hand. Immediately after, Hana leaned into Lena's ear and said that Dad was always with Mom. Then Hana did not have any expression and left. But when the door closed, Lena opened her eyes. Lena had just pretended to sleep. What Hana put in her hand was a piece of broken glass. Hana's words were exactly like a threat. Lena did not say anything, but she quickly hid the piece of broken glass. Not long after, Gerd found Lena again. He still still expected to hear the truth from her, but no matter what he asked, she remained silent. It was not until Gerd showed a photo of the real Lena that her face showed any reaction. She asked what the real Lena was like. Gerd said that Lena was enthusiastic, smart, and lovely. She had a bright future, but one morning 13 years ago, Lena's phone suddenly turned off, and she also disappeared. At that time, the police checked everyone around, but they couldn't find any clues. There was no more news about Lena. For 13 years, Lena's parents had been living in pain, and now they were standing outside. They were hoping to get some news about their daughter. Gerd begged her to help them. The woman on the bed was a little emotional, but when she was about to say something, she was stopped. Immediately, her emotions became agitated, and she fainted again. Gerd kept watch over her because he didn't want to miss any chance to get a clue. Not long after, the woman woke up with a struggle. It seemed like she had a terrible nightmare. After the woman saw Gerd's face clearly, she hurriedly asked him what day it was. After the woman got an answer, she said the word 5 months. Gerd reacted and understood that Lena was probably trying to say that she had been imprisoned for 5 months. Gerd hurriedly asked if Hannah had always been there. The woman answered yes. Gerd hurriedly asked if there was another boy there. She did not deny it. The police searched around the scene of the accident, but not long after a man rushed into the blocked-off scene. He said that he was a patrol officer in this area, but the policewoman didn't trust him too much because last night, when she was guarding the accident scene, she discovered a car lurking not far away. The policewoman was about to chase after him to check when the car quickly started and left. The policewoman asked the man if he had been here last night, but he said he only patrolled in the morning and evening. Not long after, the police discovered a military restricted area, but while everyone was fascinated by what was happening in front of them, someone was panting in panic in the woods behind them. Ida contacted the counter-terrorism team, but she was told that the military restricted area was not to be entered without permission. Ida said that there was an 8-year-old boy in danger inside, and because he also had a son, she used this reason to persuade him. He was convinced by her words and immediately ordered a search. But at this moment, a patrolman suddenly appeared and tried to stop their search. Ida ignored him and signaled to continue the operation. The team had just entered when suddenly there was an explosion, and then came the painful groans of the injured. Ada rushed to check, but she was told to stop because there were mines here. This was beyond everyone's expectations. But after the mine detection team checked, they did not find any records of buried mines. This meant that these mines were all planted by others. Ada could only endure the pressure from her superiors. She asked the bomb disposal team again, and soon all the mines were removed. After a while of searching, the rescue dog also signaled that this was the house the police were looking for. Before the police entered, Ida still called Gerd to ask the woman if there was anyone else in the room besides the boy. The answer was there was a man. When the police entered, they found a body lying in the corner of the house, and it seemed that the man had stopped breathing. Ida carefully lifted the cloth covering the man's face to take a look, but the scene after that almost made her vomit because the man's face was slashed. Gerd hurriedly asked Ida if she had found the boy. The woman next to her heard and told him that Jonathan must be under the bed in the nursery. Sure enough, the police found the boy under the bed, but the boy opened his eyes and lay still without saying a word. The woman told the police that they should praise Jonathan for doing everything right, then he would listen to them. Sure enough, after Ida said this, Jonathan suddenly took a deep breath and held Ida's hand tightly. At this point, everyone breathed a sigh of relief, but the woman on the bed asked where the man was. Then she received the answer that he was dead. After receiving the answer, the woman also breathed a sigh of relief because the person who had been threatening her had disappeared forever. After the woman calmed down a bit, she also spoke up and said her name was Jasmine. She went to an interview for a high-paying job, but she unexpectedly fell into despair. When Jasmine woke up, she found herself in a strange warehouse. Her hands and feet were tied. Suddenly, a man walked in and called her Lena, but she was not Lena. Jasmine did not understand why he called her Lena, but before she could react, the man put hair dye in a bottle of water in front of her. He told Jasmine that next she had to dye her hair blonde before she could drink water. Jasmine instinctively refused, but after she saw the man turn away and leave, she hastily agreed. Jasmine thought that cooperating would ease her suffering, but as soon as the man finished dyeing her hair, he used a red-hot iron wire to prick her palm. This brutal act made her faint from the pain. When Jasmine woke up again, the man had bandaged her wound. His actions not only scared her, but also made her feel confused. She didn't know what this man wanted to do to her. But before Jasmine could understand the current situation, the man read out his rules. When Jasmine was here, she had to absolutely obey the following rules. Every time the man entered the house, Jasmine had to stand at the door and spread her hands out to make sure she had no offensive weapons in her hands. Jasmine could only eat or go to the bathroom at the time he specified. Jasmine suddenly felt uncomfortable, but the man angrily grabbed her raised hand. He yelled at her to be careful not to dirty the dress she was wearing. Jasmine was in so much pain that she fainted, and when she woke up again, two strange children suddenly appeared in front of her, calling her mother. Jasmine was frightened by the scene before her eyes, because she was not married yet. How could she have children? Jasmine said that these were not her children, but the man gently bent down in front of her and called her Lena. He said that the two children were her children, and the man in front of her was her husband. Only then did Jasmine realize that she had been kidnapped. She had become a substitute for the woman named Lena. Perhaps the two children were Lena's children. The man needed Jasmine to play the role of their mother. In the following days, the man would train her to act according to the rules. At first, Jasmine tried to resist, but in return, she only received a brutal beating. Jasmine also asked Hannah to help her, but Hannah could only whisper to Jasmine that she should listen to the man, because above their heads was a surveillance camera with no blind spots. At this time, Jasmine also understood that she could not escape from here. After that, Jasmine could only follow the man's rules, and she turned herself into the mother named Lena of the children. Finally, one night 5 months later, Jasmine took the opportunity to escape. She took advantage of the man's inattention and hit him on the head with a crystal ball. But Jasmine hadn't run far before she was hit by a car and had to be hospitalized. The person who escaped with Jasmine was Hannah. Later, the police found the house where they were imprisoned. The police also found a boy named Jonathan and a male corpse with a mutilated face. Only after Jasmine learned this news did she dare to reveal her true identity. But was that male corpse really the man? And if Jasmine was just a substitute for Lena, then where did the real Lena go? The police conducted a thorough search of the house. Detective Gerd of the Major Crimes Unit carefully checked every corner, because Lena's disappearance had been a constant source of insomnia for him for 13 years. The police soon discovered a large number of surveillance cameras. Gerd also found a painting on the bed in the children's room. In the painting was a lush garden with Lena's parents on it. It was obvious that she drew this picture. Since Lena couldn't get out, she used this method to let her child meet her parents. This also explained why Hannah said that she met her grandfather, and she had fun in the big garden. These were all the happiness that Hannah imagined. Gerd was very sad after knowing this, because he knew that Lena was very likely to be harmed. The police quickly found the router connected to the surveillance. When the police cut off the power, the surveillance screen in a mysterious room also completely lost the signal. Immediately after, the police inside the house heard the noise and the red light kept flashing. After the police realized the problem, he rushed out. He told everyone to run away because the bomb was about to explode. Fortunately, everyone escaped in time. Only then did the police realize how scary that man was. Not long after the body found in the house, the autopsy results came back. The man died from a blunt object that broke his neck from behind. The injuries on his face were all inflicted after his death. The instrument that caused the injuries matched the glass ball that the police found in the house. His DNA did not match the DNA of the two children. This meant that the victim could be an accomplice, but he was not the real killer. Next, the forensic pathologist revealed even more shocking news. Although the genetic comparison of the two children showed that they were both Lena's children, they did not have the same father. The police had not yet recovered from this shock when they received news that a skull had been found in the woods not far from the house. Gerd knew that this was very likely Lena's. Although he knew that the hope that Lena was still alive was very small, he still could not accept such a result. When the police finished comparing the skull's genes, they found that it was not Lena's, but they found 2 strands of Lena's hair on the hair tie. This meant that this woman was also Lena's replacement, and that she had died 15 months earlier. Jasmine had been kidnapped 5 months earlier, so there must have been other victims in the intervening 10 months. Gerd informed Lena's parents, but this could not be considered good news for them, because if the man had been looking for a replacement for Lena, it meant that she was no longer alive. Gerd then took out a stack of photos. These were photos of the man's face that the police had reconstructed. Gerd asked David if he recognized the person in the photos, but he said he had never met this person. David then became angry and criticized the police for not finding the killer yet, and why Gerd did not question the woman named Jasmine. Because the police wanted to protect the victim, questioning Jasmine was not allowed at this time. Jasmine was discharged from the hospital, but she refused to return to her hometown with her father. She moved into an apartment by herself. The police had arranged for her to be protected at all times. But when Jasmine entered the apartment, a man sitting in a car not far away was watching everything. She thought Jasmine could return to her normal life, but she still waited until after 6 o'clock to eat. It seemed that the man's rules had a great influence influence on her. Her situation was getting worse as the man's voice kept echoing in her head. He urged her to work at fixed times. Finally, Jasmine couldn't stand it anymore. She took out hair dye and dyed her hair black. She tried to escape from the voice that was controlling her. But as Jasmine was drying her hair, she heard a knock on the door. The woman outside said that her father had brought some fruits and vegetables. Jasmine waited until she heard the woman leave before carefully opening the door and hurriedly carrying her bag in. But what was inside the bag scared her. Inside the bag was a box of blonde hair dye and some of the granola bars she often ate when she was imprisoned. The man said he wouldn't let Jasmine live if she dared to scream. This meant that the man was still alive and near her. But before Jasmine could calm down, the doorbell rang again. Gerd expressed that he wanted to talk to Jasmine. She quickly cleaned up the things on the floor and pretended that nothing had happened before opening the door for him. Gerd asked if the person who had imprisoned Jasmine was always the same person. Jasmine answered that it was definitely the same person. Gerd showed her a photo of the reconstructed victim and asked if she had ever seen this man. Jasmine was scared when she saw the photo because this was the man who had hit her while running away. Jasmine still remembered the man's panicked face, wanted to call an ambulance for her. She hurriedly hid her panic. The man's voice echoed in her head again. He urged her to answer the question. Jasmine wanted to answer, but she sobbed. She said she recognized this person. Gerd saw that Jasmine's emotions were agitated, so he did not continue to ask. But Jasmine's expression and answer made Gerd believe that this case might really have multiple perpetrators. After Gerd left, Jasmine also understood that she could not escape the control of that man. The police discovered many female skeletons in the forest. Strangely, they were all wearing the same clothes, the same shoes, they had the same scar and the same name, Lena. They were all kidnapped by the strange man when they were alone, and then imprisoned to become Lena's replacements. The task of these replacements was to take care of Lena's 2 children. At present, although the bodies of the victims have been found, Lena's body has not been found. Police Gerd analyzed that the killer is constantly looking for a replacement for Lena because he wants to keep her by his side. This means that Lena is very important to the killer, so Lena's body must be in a very important place for the killer. But at present, the police do not have any information about that man. The only male body found in the prison is not the father of the 2 children. The police also cannot determine whether he is the real killer or an accomplice. Gerd suddenly has a guess that Lena's daughter Hannah is currently around 12 or 13 years more old. In addition, the girl and her younger brother have different fathers, so it is very possible that Lena was pregnant before she was kidnapped. It is possible that Gerd will find the killer through Hannah. He finds all of Lena's ex-boyfriends before she went missing and collects DNA information from each of them. Not long after, the DNA comparison results showed who Hannah's biological father was, but he had his own family with 2 children. He also did not live here. This showed that Hannah's father could not be the murderer, so the murderer could only be Jonathan's biological father. Both children were sent to psychological counseling facilities. Here, doctors would train them to live in a normal society. Hannah was always able to adapt well, but Jonathan was always afraid and refused to cooperate. Seeing this, Hannah leaned close to her younger brother's ear and said that if he did not try, when their father came to pick them up, he would not be able to go home. Hannah was still waiting for her father to come pick them up. Not long after, Ruth brought Hannah a storybook, but the first thing she did when she received the gift was to run to show it to the surveillance camera. Ruth wondered who she was showing it to, and she replied that she was showing it to her father, because by doing so, her father could see that she was still following the rules. Ruth was sensitive to the problem, so she quickly called the police, Ada, but no one answered. Then Ruth looked at the surveillance camera twice more, but she did not know that she would be in trouble because of it. That night, when Ruth returned home, she found that her entire room had a power outage. After Ruth checked the circuit breaker box, she discovered that the circuit breaker had tripped. Ruth felt relieved when she saw this, but suddenly, there was a noise coming from the back room. Ruth was a bit suspicious, so she went in to check. Then she met with bad luck. The next day, Ruth had become a corpse. But after Ida went to check the scene, she did not find any traces of the crime, so the police could only conclude that Ruth died from falling down the ladder while changing the light bulb. Then Ida found Hannah. Ida brought a stack of photos for Hannah to see. In them were photos of the suspects, in the case of Lena and the other. When Hannah saw each photo, she calmly said that it was her father. It was obvious that she was trying to disrupt the police investigation. Not long after Ida left, David came to visit Hannah. While the two were sunbathing, she suddenly found her toy cat nearby. Jonathan also found a crystal ball under his pillow. These were all Christmas gifts that their father had given them, but the cat was not found after the incident, and the crystal ball was also broken by Jasmine. It was clear that the two children's father was nearby, and these two gifts were a signal to call them home. The next day, something unexpected happened. Hannah's photo at the psychiatric facility suddenly appeared on the front page of the newspaper. The angle of the photo looked like it was taken from a surveillance camera at the door, but the security there was always very strict, so it was unreasonable for something like this to happen. Ida suddenly remembered that the patrolman had appeared at the scene right after the incident. He even tried to prevent the police from searching for the place of detention. The investigator was an employee of a security company, so he could see any surveillance footage. As long as the area was under his company's responsibility for security, it would be easy for the investigator to cut out a photo of Hannah from the surveillance. The important thing was that he had a criminal record for theft, stalking, and aggravated assault. When the investigator was questioned, he was calm and said that those crimes were all things he had done when he was a minor. Now, the investigator had no criminal record. Even when the investigator was faced with taking a DNA sample, he was not panicked. Sure enough, the DNA results proved that the investigator had no connection with the two children. But luckily, the police had new information. They found a burned car in the woods. They relied on the car and found the owner. It turned out that the car owner was the male body found in that house, most likely the one who hit Jasmine. He had just returned from South Africa with his wife and children 4 months ago, so he was obviously just a victim. So why didn't Jasmine tell the whole truth when she identified the photo, but instead deliberately deceived the police? Jasmine made them think that the car owner was also the culprit. After all, the real culprit was Jonathan's father, and where was he hiding? After David saw the newspaper, he was extremely angry. If the psychological facility couldn't protect Hannah, he decided to take her home to take care of her. The apartment manager outside asked Jasmine if she was okay, because her father said they had just lost contact with her. When Jasmine heard this, she was also extremely desperate, because the person looking for the apartment manager was not her father, but the person who had always controlled her. Jasmine raised her head to look at the surveillance camera on the ceiling, and she understood that he was monitoring her every move through it. Not long after, Jasmine took out her hair dye and dyed her hair the same blonde color as when she was imprisoned. At this moment, the doorbell rang again. Gerd, confused, went to Jasmine again. He hoped that he could find some more clues from her, but from a strand of hair exposed under Jasmine's towel, Gerd discovered that she had dyed her hair again. Gerd made an excuse to go to the bathroom to check. Sure enough, he found the hair dye box in the trash can. He realized the problem and quickly observed the room carefully. When he raised his head to observe, he discovered a hidden camera in the fire alarm system on the ceiling. He quickly pretended to be calm, as if he had not discovered anything, but all his actions were seen by the supervisor. Gerd did not ask more questions. After Gerd confirmed that there were surveillance cameras all over the room, he hurriedly left Jasmine's house. Gerd returned to his car before he dared to breathe a sigh of relief. That man was always monitoring everyone's movements, and he was right next to them, so Gerd decided to stay here. As soon as Gerd left, Jasmine packed her things. The man's voice was in her head. He complimented her on her good work and asked if she was ready to go home. Jasmine then put on her captive clothes and looked in the mirror and called herself Lena. Hannah was taken to David's house. David had arranged a room for Hannah early, but in the middle of the night, he was suddenly awakened by a noise on the roof. When David went to check, he found that Hannah had disappeared, but soon after, he found her at the window downstairs. Hannah was standing in front of the window waving outside. David was relieved to see that, but when he woke up the next morning, she was gone again. He hurriedly searched for her all over the house, but Hannah had left David's house, and she appeared in a truck full of surveillance equipment. The man sitting in front of Hannah was the man who caused everything. He showed her the new house he had prepared, and that was also the new place of confinement. Immediately after that, he turned on Jasmine's surveillance screen and saw that she had finished cleaning and was ready to go out. Next, the man just needed to pick up Jasmine and Jonathan, and the four of them would become a happy family. It seemed that Jasmine was very calm in cleaning everything, but she took a fruit knife from the drawer and secretly hid it in her sleeve. All of this was clearly seen by the man. Immediately after, Jasmine received a text message from the man. He said that he was waiting at the corner of the street. As soon as Jasmine left the door, Gerd, who had been waiting outside all night, hurriedly followed, but Gerd lost track of Jasmine at the corner of the street. Gerd suddenly saw the man opening the car door. Gerd remembered that he had seen this man at the police station. He was the boss of the security company. Gerd recalled the previous clues and understood everything. Gerd hurriedly drove after the man's car. Then Gerd called Ida and asked her to investigate whether the boss of the security company had any relationship with Lena's family. Then Ida went to the security company to investigate whether there were any records related to Lena's family. When Ida turned around, she found a photo on the wall. The staff said it was the boss's grandfather Lorden. Lorden looked a lot like his grandfather and always lived with his grandparents. Soon after, Ida discovered a young girl in another photo who looked a lot like Lena. The other staff said it was Lorden's mother. One day she suddenly disappeared when she was very young, and no one had ever seen Lorden's father. Ida took those two photos. At this time, the staff also checked the records. In 2002, Lena's family hired this company to install a security system, but the last alarm rang 13 years ago. Ida hurriedly took the photo to find Jonathan. When the boy saw the photo, he said that the person in the photo looked like his father, but had aged. The woman in white looked a lot like his mother, but was a little different. At this point, the case was cleared up. Lorden was Jonathan's father, and also the real culprit. It turned out that Lena was home alone when Lorden came to fix the surveillance system. He discovered that she looked exactly like her mother. At that moment, Lorden suddenly had a perverted thought. 13 years later, Lena was still imprisoned by him. Later, she gave birth to Hannah and Jonathan. In the end, Lena died from a difficult birth. As soon as Jasmine got into the car, Hannah put handcuffs on her. At this point, Jasmine was no longer too scared. She just asked why Lorden let her live. But Lorden touched Jasmine's belly. It turns out Jasmine had taken a pregnancy test before running away. And more importantly, Hannah wanted Jasmine to. That night, Jasmine took the opportunity to knock Lorden out and then picked up the keys and ran away. Jasmine told Hannah and Jonathan to run away quickly, but Jonathan sadly took the broken glass ball. Hannah took the broken piece from Jonathan's hand and told him to clean up the scene. Jonathan should wait for Lorden to wake up and tell him everything. Hannah ran out alone to find Jasmine. Immediately after that, Jasmine was hit by a car. Hannah took advantage of the moment when the man who caused the accident panicked and knocked him out with a stick. Then Lorden also chased after her. At first, Lorden decided to deal with Jasmine right there, but Hannah begged for Jasmine to live because Jasmine was her favorite surrogate mother. Jasmine was also the one who resembled Lena the most. Lorden loved his daughter, so he agreed to her request, but if Jasmine wanted to live, she had to accept treatment at the hospital. Then Lorden took the broken piece of glass from Hannah's hand and slashed the poor man's face. Then he told Hannah what to say and do next. Lorden told Hannah to wait until Lena got better before picking them up. Then Lorden called an ambulance and left the broken glass for Hannah. Everything Lorden did was what Hannah wanted and asked. Jasmine looked at Hannah and felt extremely confused. Jasmine had no idea what kind of person she was facing. At 12 o'clock, it was time for Jasmine to go to the bathroom according to the rules. Lorden parked the car in a deserted place and uncuffed Jasmine. Then he grabbed her wrist. He took out the small knife hidden there and threw it away. Lorden also extinguished Jasmine's last ray of hope, but when she squatted down, she secretly took out the broken glass that she had hidden the deepest. Immediately after that, Jasmine pretended to faint. He used his hand to wake her up. She suddenly counterattacked in an extreme way. She shouted that she was not pregnant and that she was not Lena. In the end, Jasmine saved herself. After Jasmine finished these things, she also resolutely walked towards the sun. When Gerd arrived, Lorden was almost dead. Gerd covered his wound and asked where Lena was. Lorden only had time to say she was in the garden and then died. At the same time, Jasmine and Hannah were on the beach not far away. They were feeling the sea and the wind together. Hannah finally took off her glasses. After 10 years, she could look straight at the world outside the wall. Hannah was finally free and happy. Later, Lena's remains were actually excavated in the garden. Hannah and Jonathan were also able to live normally like other children. They were the last gift Lena left for her parents. Today's movie ends here. See you again in the next video.